John here, guys, and today we're talking about an update to the FrSKY and Team Black Sheep discussion that we were having earlier this week. Now, this is going to be a short one, but just wanted to follow up since there is an update. Now, for those who want a little more background and information, I really suggest that you go and watch Chad Novak, aka Final Glides, video on the subject. He gives a lot of insights on how Team Black Sheep came up with the original designs, what components they used. He had some very strong opinions and kind of rehashed a somewhat of a beef that he had been having with Trappy that may or may not still be going on. It sounds like they're trying to squash it, but this is not about that. Again, we appreciate and love and need both of these companies in this hobby. They both make a very strong contribution, and we all kind of want them to stick around. So let's dissect the actions and reactions that are happening, though. So just to recap, in last week's episode, what happened was Team Black Sheep is basically giving an ultimatum to all online FPV and brick and mortar retailers who sell their Team Black Sheep products, such as Unify and other Crossfire products. And what they're saying that is, if they are going to continue to sell FrSKY's R9 system, they will drop them as a supplier or retailer for their Team Black Sheep goods. Now, this is kind of an interesting tactic, because really it hurts those retailers that help us. You know, if you think about your favorite online FPV retailer, and we have some awesome ones out there, Get FPV, Pyroflip, Race Day Quads, you know, there's just too many to list. They are all so great. So why would they want to hurt them? And really, I don't think that Team Black Sheep is thinking about that. They're thinking about how to be strategic business wise. But if they had attended business school, they may have come up with a different course of action, because ultimatums like this, and Chad Novak actually made some very astute observations, ultimatums like this rarely work. And that goes for if you give your significant other an ultimatum, you know, stop being friends with this person, or I'll never talk to you again. That's kind of what they're doing, and it just feels a little weird from a consumer standpoint, because it's not really going to hurt us as the customers. It's going to hurt our favorite retailers. And we don't want that, because we all want to support them. We all want them to be able to make a living with our dollars contributing. And we want the people that create and innovate, such as Team Black Sheep and FrSKY, to continue being able to do so. Now, what Chad Novak pointed out is that they're sort of at a point where they're trading blows. It's sort of like a high school, you know, kind of a thing. You do something to me, I do something to you back. And so, sure enough, not long after he made that video, or right about the same time, FrSKY responded. And they responded with more of a traditional business school type tactic. And they are slashing their prices. They're basically allowing you to pick up their R9 system with an R9 mini or micro receiver for $30 if you buy any of their radios. So that goes for the X-Lite, the QX7, and the Tyrannus series of radios like the X9D. And they're also letting people who already own any of those radios purchase that same combo for $30. That is unheard of. They are slashing prices. Now, if you remember in the last video, we talked about what some tactics that other industries, such as gaming, that most of us are all familiar with. For a long time, Microsoft was taking a loss with the sale of their Xbox 360 and later on the Xbox One consoles. And in fact, in modern times, most generations closer to launch do incur a loss for a good while. And they do that in order to gain market penetration. So this is a very interesting tactic by FrSKY to gain market penetration in their new 900 megahertz system. Now, are these actually substitute goods? Now, in the business sense, substitute goods means that are they an alternative for each other? Are people that are shopping them shopping those two goods in the same market? So to give you an example from the auto industry, someone that was shopping for, say, a Honda Accord may also be shopping for a Toyota Camry. Those would be considered substitute goods. But somebody that was shopping for a Honda Accord and someone else that's shopping for, say, a Ferrari, those are not substitute goods. Yes, they're both cars, but they are geared towards very different markets, and they're not substitute for each other. So is FrSKY making an attempt to make their product not be a substitute good? Are they trying to say that their product is in a totally different class, even though it does a very similar thing? Possibly. Are they just trying to gain market penetration? Are they starting to get a name known for themselves in the 900 megahertz field? And honestly, 900 megahertz really hasn't been that attractive to me personally thus far. And the reason being is, one, I don't fly long range. Two, I really actually would very much like the benefits of the lower latency that you can gain. But given that said, though, I wasn't willing to spend $100 on the module and $40 a pop to replace all my receivers. And so I typically run 3 or 4 quads. So that would represent an investment of, well over $200. And depending on if I did a 5th quad, be even more. And so that's just not something I was willing to do. I really like my XM Plus being able to buy a receiver for $13. And it just wasn't for me. I didn't feel like I was racing on quite the level that needed that extra bit of low latency. But now that I am getting faster, a little bit of low latency does sound attractive. And if FrSKY's module will allow me to get, and let's say just a fraction lower latency, maybe not as good as Crossfire, and I don't know because I haven't done the testing, but from what I understand, perhaps it's not quite as fast. But if I can get there for a fraction of the cost, and the receivers are going to cost, marginally different cost from there, then that is something that I'm very interested in trying. But am I a substitute customer for that? I was not the customer that was going to pony up and pay for the Crossfire module personally. So FrSKY acquiring me as a customer is not a substitute customer for that. I'm not substituting one good for the other because I was not in the market for that. But there may be some people potentially that were Crossfire users or that were very close to becoming a Crossfire user. And this is a very drastic and aggressive pricing maneuver by FrSKY because Team Black Sheep actually just came out with a $200 bundle that includes, I believe, 4 of their micro Crossfire receivers, the module, 3 of the Immortal T antennas, and a few of the monopole antennas, and that is an excellent value. God, what a package. So if FrSKY wanted to kind of strike back, if you will, they really had to do something aggressive, and they have. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? I think it's very interesting to play out. For now, this sort of pricing war thing actually benefits consumers. It benefits us as the customers because it's actually going to allow more of us to get introduced to this 900 megahertz systems, something that a lot of us may not have been doing already, and now because of the price differences that are going back and forth both on the Crossfire side and the R9 side, that they're going to have many more people diving into this type of system. So I think it's very interesting. Pay attention to these business decisions that are getting made. One thing that's very interesting is that TBS is starting to gain a reputation as sort of the big FPV presence, like a big, large corporation, but really almost every company in FPV is small. So the kind of the business decisions that they're making is starting to shift their portrayal as sort of like being like the man, and FrSKY is being such a low-cost leader. They're like fighting for the consumer, and that may not necessarily be the case. They're both, fairly large companies. I wouldn't be surprised if FrSKY is actually larger than Team Black Sheep. I really don't know who's bigger, but you have to be cognizant of how the decisions that you make when interacting with your competition. You have to be cognizant of how those things will affect your public's, your customers' perception of your company. So, very interesting, the things that are going on. Let's continue to monitor. I think we should all continue as much as we can to support both companies. But let's learn a thing or two from how they're conducting themselves, how they're behaving. Let's monitor the trends on how this affects their company's perception, how it affects their bottom line, and let's take these corporate lessons that we can gather in our hobby and use them for our future business selves. Let's learn from other people's business decisions. So very interesting, guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. I really appreciate all the comments and discussion in the last post, so let's keep those coming, and see you next time.